happy Halloween. We're ready to get going on the last press conference of October. I have some people dressed up in the audience here, staff. So if they get some questions, this is going to be interesting. We did just show that I have on my Halloween socks, my ghost socks. So I do have something dressed for Halloween. Did want to talk about a couple of things. Again, this is certainly, and Casey always makes sure I remember a couple of things. She also said, remember tonight is Halloween and to be very careful. Keep your eye out for trick-or-treaters in neighborhoods. Drive safely and slowly tonight. Obviously, people will be out probably in the 5 o'clock going home time. So be careful, and certainly remember we'll have lots of people out trying to have fun tonight. But again, happy Halloween. A couple of items that happened this past week that I did at least want to talk to a little bit more specifically. One was the Commerce Day we had at the port. It was a great day. Really gave a chance for people to see what goes on at the port. I said this morning I was on a radio show and just discussing the fact that I think we've showed now for 4 years, as we've taken the port back from significantly in the red to significantly in the black, that you can be successful as a port and have a successful downtown, because certainly our downtown over the last 4 years has been incredibly vibrant and never has been more valuable than it is right now. But those two things aren't mutually exclusive, and that's what we wanted to show. We are doing some traditional commerce. We are doing non-traditional things at the port, both of which are making our port successful. It's not Mobile's port. It's not even Panama City's port. It's certainly not Savannah or New Orleans. But it is the Port of Pensacola, and it can be successful. And I think we showed you, all of our tenants out there, what's going on. We're very excited to see what's happening with CEMEX. Certainly, as we're discussing a couple of things today, certainly the deal with concrete and the escalating prices of concrete. Having a ready source that we can bring cement and concrete to Northwest Florida rather than having it trucked or railed from either Tampa or Houston is going to be significant. And so I don't think it's lost. It's very important that they're going to have an opportunity to expand here, and they're going to be putting roughly $30 to $40 million into our port, and we're excited about that. We're also excited about what that's leveraging and allowing us to do. For those that were there and had a chance to see American Magic, is we have the real opportunity to make this the home base for American Magic going forward. But really, discussions that the American Magic people have had with U.S. sailing, making Pensacola really the center for U.S. sailing. And I think that is exciting going forward, and the opportunities that are there with the new plan for what's going to be the additional part on the northern half of the port. And so I think there are a number of things that are happening at the port that are very successful. We're successful right now with our tenants out there, and those who took the tour got a chance to see the number of things that we're doing out there. Amy and Clark and his team and what they're doing is amazing things. So hopefully you got a chance to see that. Did at least also want to mention, it was exciting to turn on the TV yesterday and to see the soccer tournament, and then continuing to mention Pensacola as the location for the SEC women's soccer tournament at this particular point. I know I spoke with Chief Craner, who was out there. We've talked back in the Women's World Cup. I know she's a big women's soccer fan. I know she was out there taking it in. It's great to have that opportunity. I think it's certainly incredible for many of our young ladies in this community to see the opportunities that are here in Pensacola, to be associated with a premier conference in the United States for sports and athletics, and to have them have their competition right here in Pensacola is certainly special. And it was special to see last night on TV on the SEC network them talking about Pensacola. So that was exciting to see. The other thing I think that happened this past week, one of the things that was exciting to me, because I spent a lot of time certainly at the county putting this together. It's taken about 12 years since the oil spill, but when it first came out that fall of 2010, I got together with some of the scientists from the science department at UWF, and one of the things they talked about was if we could do anything. At the time, we didn't really know. We knew we could do something, but we didn't really know what we were going to get, and we got so much more. But the one thing they said we needed to do was make sure we had an estuary plan certainly places like Tampa Bay, Indian River, even Mobile Bay next door to us have done the estuary program, and we're in the National Estuary Program. We got started on that. We actually ended up not going through the restore process of local restore monies, but we actually competed on it in a section of restore money that was competitive across the entire Gulf, and were successful in getting the Pensacola Perdido Bay estuary plan started. This book, I was on the bark when finally we got the money and we got the funding 4 years ago, and turned that over to that process. And what was the old bark was Bay Area Resource Council between Escambia and Santa Rosa. Picked up a number of people from Alabama all the way over to Okaloosa County and Walton County, and picked up another counties and cities in those jurisdictions to be part of the estuary plan. And they've put together this book, which is their comprehensive conservation and management plan, which is really, as the person from Amy Newbold from EPA said, it really looks more like a coffee table book, but this really is the plan that kind of begins to tell us what do we do about making sure that our estuaries and the environment of our bays and estuaries and again, rivers that are coming into it, what is the plan for us doing the things we need to do going forward. Also, that's going to be very instrumental in what we do with Carpenter's Creek and some of the other things that we're going to be putting forward as a city and our plans in dealing with restore and even the Hollis T. Williams. And so I know this summer I went with Matt, and we're still looking to get national designation for our estuary plan. That hadn't happened in decades. They haven't added a new one, but we certainly do believe, and we had good discussions with EPA as to what we can do and what we can bring to the table by coming forward. I think Matt Posner and his team have done an excellent job at this, and I'm excited to see what's going forward. We're now funding it ourselves this year in our budget. The City of Pensacola allocated its share of money for funding the estuary program. So again, we are now part of it, and we're so proud to see the recommendations and the comprehensive conservation and management plan come to fruition. So I thought it was a big day. Last week we were in City Hall and approved that. Also in the council chambers and was approved last week, we are excited to welcome Stephen Ringel as the new Director of Innovation and Technology at the City of Pensacola, and he is responsible for developing and implementing a strategic plan in all areas of technology for the city. Stephen joins the City of Pensacola from the City of Milton, where he served as the IT Director since 2019. He has more than 15 years experience in the IT field, and this first day is today. So we did get him ratified by the city this past week, and so we're excited about that. But that's not the only new hire we've got. We've also got a new hire at Osceola Golf Course since we moved Adrian up to be in charge of Parks and Rec. We knew we needed to get somebody out there at Osceola Golf Course. We're excited to welcome Ryan Maddox as the new Osceola Golf Course Manager, responsible for overseeing and operation of city-owned golf courses. Ryan is the founder of Impact Golf Academy at Stonebrook Golf Club in Pace, Florida, and he previously served as the head of golf professional at the Pensacola Country Club. Ryan is a PGA Class A certified golf professional. He brings more than 15 years of experience in the golf industry to his new role, and his first day with the city was Monday, October 17th. So he's out there, and we're looking forward to seeing him. Coming up on this Friday is the Mayor's Cup to certainly support what we're doing with First Tee and again with golf. And so we're looking forward to him showing off what's out there at Osceola. I will let you know, obviously, not tomorrow, but the following Tuesday, and again, early voting is going on, but next Tuesday is the final election day for that day. You can certainly go now, early voting sites that the supervisor of election has. There are a couple of them inside the city. I certainly know the one downtown, library, and in the genealogy library at Pensacola State College. So there are a number of sites, but again, the charter amendment, there is a charter amendment info on the website. Casey says, we're getting a lot of questions about the charter amendment referendums on the ballot. I know I have as well. So we have put information about the referendums on our homepage at our website of cityofpensacola.com. Voters who have questions can visit our website and click on the link at the very top of the page for more information. And I hope all of you will take a chance to tell your public and your viewers and your listeners and your readers about this, because this is important, because there are a lot of people who are curious about what's going on and what's happening. So we will be we've put something out there for you to get information, and so try to explain what each of these things means so that you'll know what to do as you go to vote. I've certainly gotten a lot of people who have called me and asked me about it. Then also, we had the final Mayor's Cleanup this past weekend. We collected more than 65 tons of bulk waste, and I think I felt like I contributed most of that. We cleaned out our garage, but we put out a lot of stuff. But the final Mayor's Cleanup, neighborhood cleanup for 2022 was a success, collecting more than 65 tons of bulk waste, nearly 1,300 gallons of paint. I contributed about 4 or 5 of those, and 73 tires, no tires. But I did contribute a couple gallons of paint. The pickup took place on Saturday, October 29th in Cordova Park, Bars Park, Dunwoody Park, and Carpenter Creek areas. Stay tuned for the City of Pensacola website and Facebook for updates for 2023 cleanup. Those certainly will be, I know the new mayor will be scheduling those, and look forward to seeing those as well. But those have always been a pleasure, and I was glad to finally have the last one in my neighborhood, and there were a lot of people putting stuff out, so it was good. It gave us a chance to clean out our garage. This is also the 5-2-1-0 Day of Play event hosted by the City of Pensacola Parks and Recreation Department in partnership with the Florida Department of Health in Escambia County. The 5-2-1-0 Healthy Escambia program will be held Saturday, November 5th at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Community Maritime Park. Day of Play invites residents and visitors in Northwest Florida to experience a day of activities to learn more ways that families and individuals can live healthier and more active lifestyles. The event is free and open to the public, and we hope you will come this Saturday out to Community Maritime Park. I also did want to mention a couple of other things. Obviously, we talked about the Mayor's Cup that looks to raise money for First Tee, and we will be out there at Osceola. If you wish to participate, I know First Tee has opportunities for people who want to play. Also wanted to let you know that the Plaza de Luna is now open to the public. We've completed all of our repairs, and very happy to see that back open. Fountains are open too, or getting there.
Fountains are open, but the electricity's back.
Okay, so we expect to have fountains going very shortly. We've got electricity and everything else going, so very good to have that back as one of the repairs from Sally. I know it took a lot longer than any of us wanted, but we knew we were going to get there, and we're happy to be there. Did want to discuss a couple of things, obviously things that are happening at the port. One of those we're going to have a discussion next week is Project Pickle. We have an opportunity to take the warehouse, I forget the number, Amy, it's the one that it's warehouse 4, the one that I just know it is the one that the railroad cars dead end into right there, and it also has access to the parking lot over by the ferry. And again, we're looking, we've got a prospect that would like us to take that building outside the fence line and be able to access it and use it for indoor court facilities, indoor pickleball facility. It would be run in a sense very much like Roger Scott, where we have the building is ours, but the operations and all will be run by another company. They'll be putting in, they're actually at this time be putting in the infrastructure on the interior of it. And we will be coming forward hopefully in December with a lease. I know that we were reviewing it, but we just weren't able to get it done by Friday. But I know in talking with Amy, we feel good about at least the spirit of the terms. Our whole idea is much like what we did at Roger Scott, is certainly finding ways to take city assets, make them available for recreation. Certainly pickleball has been out there as one of those things that people are seeing all over. And the opportunity to have those courts and have them in an indoor facility we thought was a good thing. And we've certainly been working on them. It's another way that we could turn port assets into viability for the community and take this out of in a non-traditional sense. This is a warehouse that's fairly old, has not really been utilized very much. It has some challenges on the flooring, which again they're gonna figure all this out. But we also knew when I talked to you a couple of months ago, and we were talking about if things didn't work out at Streamline Boats, that we knew that that warehouse was going to be significant because we had other uses going on for warehouse space at the port. So again, this will significantly change what available warehouse we have, but we do think it's a way that we can take a viable asset and turn it into a parks and recreation, another amenity for our community and our citizens. Like I said before, we'd hope to have this ready for next week, but we will be doing a presentation next Monday to council about it, and I think they will be looking to vote on a lease that will come forward on the December meeting. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to expand and have different operations here. And obviously pickleball is growing fast all over the country, and the opportunity to now have a facility in the city that does that, I think will be very good. Lastly, we were not able to get finalized on lots 4 and 5, so that will not be coming to council next meeting, but we will next Monday have a discussion. I did talk with Andrew Rothfeder, who is our agent handling that for us. He met Thursday night with the potential tenant. Obviously, they're experiencing the same thing we've heard from other people, same thing we heard the other day when we were trying to do the parking related to that hotel development downtown. I think structured parking is simply becoming a very challenging part, both either with the cost, which have been escalating with concrete, at the same time, the challenges with the finance market. And at this point, I think they're going to explain what's happening. As Andrew said, even 4 or 5 months ago, this was probably not as big a concern. They've certainly done a lot of work to get to this point, and the challenges are just simply the challenges of working with the finance market along with the escalating costs. Now, I do think over time that will change. Like I said, we had a good meeting. New Mayor-elect, myself, and Amy and Kareth met last week with one of our new port tenants, which we talked about, CEMEX, that I do think, in talking with them about where the price of concrete goes in the future, they do expect challenges that were happening in international shipping to subside, and for hopefully those prices to come down. Certainly, I think that makes those opportunities look at other things, but clearly we've got to do a significant part of structured parking. It helps us unlock all the rest of the potential at the Maritime Park. We can't, if we don't have a parking lot, we can't get the hotel that we want there and everything else that we want to see on there in a place to park. So we knew there were going to be challenges very similar to what came to us from the recent hotel developer. But again, we will have a discussion meeting next Monday. I know Andrew will be discussing about sort of what's going on and where we go forward from there. But we will not be able to finish 4 and 5. But again, I think it's more of some things that are factors that will even themselves out over time, and it will become again probably more feasible as we go forward into the future. I think those prices are simply temporary, but there's no doubt that there in the concrete market there is significant disruption that has caused prices to really escalate significantly, and I think Andrew will talk to us some about that. But that's kind of what we have today and what's going on. I'm happy to answer your question, and I'm happy to do anything else. If we can also, we'll be happy to get any of our staff up here in their costumes to answer any of your questions as well. So we'll look to see that. But I'm happy to answer any questions. All right.
Mayor, pickleball at the port sounds exciting. Does that mean that the Streamline deal is finished?
It does not. It does not mean the Streamline deal is finished. But John, I know. I think a couple of months ago, I know you were not here. Sort of on a you'd taken a hiatus for a while. It came up about what was going on about Streamline, and my feeling was Streamline has some fairly significant milestones to meet that they're not getting any construction done. That's what worries me more than anything else. Obviously, there were a number of things that were reported in other news sources about their internal structure. I don't know anything about that. All I'm worried about, and very much the lease we put forward, was very much it was really about their ability to produce. They had to produce a building. They have certain milestones they have to meet. If they don't meet those milestones, my comment at that point was, I don't think the city should make any changes. I mean, we should probably go a different way. So it is very, I said at that time, it's very likely this summer that they won't meet those milestones, and then we'll be looking for a different part. But at the time, I'd hinted and intimated that we had other significant discussion for space at the port, and this is probably one of those things. But we really at that point weren't as detailed in the final negotiations to get us to a point where we could discuss it. At this point, their hope was to get it done. They wanted it to get done at this meeting in November. During September and October, we worked. I think we're fairly close, and I think Amy would feel like we have something very workable, but we just weren't able to get there where we could make it all work because last Friday was the deadline. So what we said was let's take a discussion item to the council and allow them to discuss it and understand, and that'll give them a chance to see what's going on and have it come forward the following month in December. But it is something we've been working on for a number of months to get that pulled together. Yes, Jeremy?
I was trying to think of something to get these guys up here. No legitimate question.
No legitimate question. Just wanted. Jeremy's question is: Will David Forte please come forward with his costume?
Yeah, I mean, Amy might need to join him.
Yes.
I mean, they could I don't know. Could they demonstrate proper pickleball form?
I don't know about pickleball form, but I think what they will show. We've discussed a lot of things that have happened here at the city and what we've done to create culture and a sense of what we want to do in employee engagement. And part of that is a process of that is having fun. We do very serious stuff here and we take it very seriously. But at no time, it doesn't mean we cannot do things and have fun at the same time. The team that I have now, as I tell people all the time, I said I could not be happier with the leadership we have and their ability to embrace things and have fun with a good time with it and their employees. It's what it's all about. You're not going to have engaged employees. You're not going to make a difference if you don't have people who are willing to do their jobs, but to do it with some fun. So these are our two deputy administrators, and I'll let them talk to you about their costumes.
So mine is basically what I thought I'd be able to get away with today. And I started out in just orange and black and my candy corn socks. And then I remembered I had to get candy to give out tonight, and I ran across the ears and the mittens, and I thought, perfect. And so there you have it. I did want to just clarify, John, that pickleball and Streamline are two different leases in two different warehouses also. So they're not mutually exclusive. So if Streamline does get it together and perform, they can coexist because they're in two different locations. Yes, sir.
Who would the pickleball contract be with?
Well, I can't really release that yet because it's not within 30 days of the item going to City Council for a vote on the lease. So they can release that when they present to City Council next Monday. But right now they're still under confidentiality that's afforded to port lease negotiations by state law.
And I believe they will be there next Monday.
Yes, they will.
Like, how large of a facility? Like, how many pickleball courts?
We don't know about the pickleball courts.
No,
Yeah, how
I
large
don't.
is
But
the
it's
facility?
basically an indoor sports tournament facility that will
big is the
have.
warehouse?
The warehouse is 48,000 square feet. And they're going to do an addition, as their plan calls for a little bit of an addition onto that as well. And it will be able to handle pickleball, basketball, volleyball, whatever the name of that indoor soccer is. I'm not sure what the name of it is.
What is it? You said it hasn't been used really recently?
It's been used for general storage for port customers. It's just not under lease currently. And it's a warehouse that we've had picked out for quite a while for, I think, I've kind of latched on to the phrase. I will actually give credit to former City Councilman Brian Spencer for calling what we want to do there an adaptive reuse. So basically keeping the structure of the warehouse, because it's kind of a cool looking building.
But it's also closest to, it can be taken out of the fence
But
line.
it can be taken out of the fence line very easily, and we've had it tagged for some time for a reuse that's consistent with kind of the ferry terminal, the new hotel that's supposed to go in over there, and that whole area that frankly always was kind of a dead zone on the waterfront, really becoming an activated area.
It's the kind of thing, when you say Roger Scott, I mean, you could host like pickleball tournaments on the water.
Exactly, and that's
I mean,
exactly what the plan is. That's where the money is in that. The money in that is not in the local memberships that they're going to sell or the pay-to-play hours of the facility. It's in those traveling tournaments.
And it's where you can host something like that, like public access.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, it gives us an amenity. While they certainly have plans to host these tournaments, they will at the same time, in a sense, have a public amenity like a Roger Scott for pickleball. I mean, if you want to play it, they'll have it. And, you know, we, at this point, you could turn tennis courts into that, but we haven't done that because our tennis courts have been fairly well utilized. So from this standpoint, rather than us having to take money to create a new athletic amenity, we're actually partnering with somebody else to help bring it into a building that we knew we didn't really have a use for and really reactivate it and reactivate a space.
Your turn, David.
All right.
We got off the costume subject,
right.
but
David Forte. Today I'm here as Mike Wazowski. That's Wazowski with one eye. No. No, I do appreciate the mayor allowing staff to just have the ability to have some fun, bring some levity to the team. I mean, we work very hard day in and day out to provide a great service to our citizens, and so have the opportunity to be here and bring some levities. It goes a long way. It shows the culture and the environment we have here. But I will say that the city administrator tricked us. He said he was going to dress up this morning, and he actually didn't dress up. So I call him out for that. But we do have a golfer in the back. You know, Adrian is a golfer. He's dressing as a golfer. But yeah, I got a joke for you. Why did the ghost stop studying for his exams?
Why?
He was too cool for school.
I like
I got many more. What is a ghost's favorite dessert?
what?
Ice cream.
We're gonna get
All right.
we're gonna get David back doing public works and doing those kind of things. So hey, did you hear Jeremy say you're moonlighting? So yes, that's yes. But again, and that wasn't even planned, but I think it does go a long way, at least in explaining a lot about what we've tried to do here. And I think the most significant thing we've done in 4 years is really address culture and engagement. And I think it's one of the things you see across the line and everywhere. And again, I talked at length to Tim Kinsella, I know who's heading up the new mayor's transition team, and he said everybody he talked to, they talk about the culture and what's been here, and certainly that part just wanting to continue to expand and build off of that. And I think it shows what we've been able to do with our team. Like I said, we do a lot of things, and we do them. They're serious work, but it doesn't mean it can't be done without fun. And we try to find ways to have fun with it and create a real family atmosphere that is conducive for our employees and really makes them want to think. And again, if you're out there and you're thinking about a career, especially if you're a young person, public service can be a great career. We need good people to go into public service and do these jobs. Granted, you may not be Bill Gates doing public service, but you can have a very long and good career that's meaningful for the impact of your community. So I hope you will think about that and think about those opportunities because there are great opportunities to be a part of your community. Without that, I will look. Oh, yes, John.
Mayor, could you talk for a minute about the resident satisfaction survey and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. It came to council the other day. I think there are a couple things. There are a number of things I look at it and glean from it because I think you can get stuff. The one that's always interesting to me is there are certain parts that seem very negative, but then when you look at when they actually rate our services, almost nearly all of our services were very positive. Obviously, one of the things that was very negative is housing affordability. I don't think in any way as Ms. Gleason, who was up here talking about it, said that she didn't think that was a reflection on Marcy Whitaker and their staff in housing. That's obviously outside forces that have created, and we all know what's going on. We've had that discussion many times, what's happening here with housing. So it certainly wasn't a surprise to me what was happening there with the housing issue. I think it is interesting to underline and show what's there. I do think it was kind of interesting. There is discussion about crime, and I think that's one of the things that people are concerned about. But what was interesting that I know that recently Chief Randall put out and showed some statistics as to where we are year over year. Our property and other kind of crimes are down. Obviously, the challenge that was up was, we had the things like the gun violence and some of the other stuff that were slightly up. But I think having any of those is what makes people more concerned. And clearly, that's something that's been in the environment that we've been dealing with for a while. I think the things, what we've tried to do very clearly is if they happen in the city, we've been able to track them down, solve them, figure out who did it, and that doesn't happen without buy-in from the community. And I think over the last 4 years, we've gotten a whole lot more buy-in from the community, and it shows the success. Now, I wish it would lead to a point where we don't have that anymore in the city, and that's my hope at some point that people would get that idea. But again, some of those things you can't totally stop. But those are some of the things I picked out in the survey that I saw that's there. I do think there's a little bit of a challenge between that survey and I think what you see that Civicon does, and Civicon goes and actively calls people much like you would for a campaign, because if you're just waiting for people to bring you information, the people who typically bring you the most information are people who are upset, and so I don't think you get a good cross section. People who are generally happy with you, generally that's not their goal to pick up the phone and come call you and tell you how happy they are. They don't do that. Now, when they're unhappy, they will call you immediately and they will let you know. They will email you. That's just a part of the way the job is. I just think you got to be careful in how you look at it. And I think that was case in point. You saw Councilman Wiggins when it showed this negative factor. Again, I would say one of the most up and coming neighborhoods, and what you see happening and more probably building of new housing is happening in his area. The problem is with any new housing, when you build it, it's going to be more expensive. And I think people in District 7 are probably the most acutely impacted by increases in pricing. Certainly the discussion of median wage and income in those areas was one of the lowest of all city districts. But I do think there were some things that were interesting. Councilwoman Breyer pointed out how really close almost most of our districts are, which there was some consistency in there. Obviously, like I said, you definitely see District 7 as being the most challenged financially, and then really being hit by the impact of the changing in pricing. We've got a lot of new stuff happening there, but it is more expensive housing, and it has created definitely some stress. But I don't think people in District 7 are. It was kind of looked as they don't like living there, and I think Councilman Wiggins took that very defensively, and I understand why. I think that a lot of people love living in District 7. There are a lot of good things that are going on in District 7. We've definitely invested in a lot of park and recreation infrastructure, what we've done at Kiwanis, what we've done at Legion Field, what we've done at Sanders Beach. So we've really invested in quality of life, and I think quality of place, and I think the west side in District 7 is as good as any other place. I think that's why we're seeing more houses being built there. But I think what you're really seeing come out of that is a sense of frustration, and that these new houses are more expensive than what traditionally has been in the neighborhood, and it does, I think, nowhere else probably do we have more rental housing, and that has been the most significant impact is in that District 7 corridor. So that's my thought on it. you know, when they rate what we actually do, what we actually control, and the services we provide, we rate pretty well, which is, you know, those are things I feel like we can control. I mean, there are small things we can do here and there, but we really don't have as much control over housing prices and some of those things. We can certainly do some things to mitigate, and we're trying to look at that, and we're definitely trying to push more into the rental housing, and that's what we're trying to do.
Mayor, the cost of capital is at a 30-year high right now. You said lots 4 and 5 may be a victim of that to some degree.
I think they...
Mr. Henderson's project over here on the Jefferson Street, do you think all this is going to slow down dramatically? And what is the city thinking about as a lot of this the construction financing gets more expensive?
Well, I think all of us are having to look at it, and it'll be one of the things that's probably going to be most stressed on the new council and new administration. I certainly think the things you just mentioned are stuff that when you look at it, it becomes easy to see why some of these projects are not they're not as feasible as they were only 6 months ago. And the only thing I would say out of that, John, is things could turn around in another 6 months. It's like the weather. You know, if you stay here long enough, it could change. So, you know, that's the only thing I think is potentially there in that discussion. I think something will mitigate. I mean, clearly apartments can be built. We see the ones coming out on Garden. Of course, they didn't need structured parking. I don't think it's the apartments and the housing while it's pricey, I don't think that is prevented. I do think concrete and structured parking. I mean, again, Chad Henderson's hotel, they never said there was a problem with the hotel. The issue is more, what do you do with the structured parking? It becomes unable to pencil and finance with the cost of structured parking. So I think there are things that will absolutely be doable, and there are things that won't be doable. And unfortunately, at this particular time, as we deal with parking, structured parking is just going to be really a challenge. But I do think there were some things when we talked with CMEX, and they were interested. It was interesting to talk to them about it. They see some of the things. I mean, again, remember, I was in California, and I bought gas back in March, and it was $6.50 a gallon. I mean, it wasn't that expensive here, but it was pushing well over $4 a gallon here, and now it's under $3. You know, I mean, so you know, anything can change, and time can change in 6 months, and I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but you know, right now it is very challenging for that type of development to occur. So, you know, I would love the point. I think from an environmental and everything else, I think structured parking where you don't have to take up such large areas with parking lots is a great thing. Unfortunately, I don't think in the current environment we're in or the near future it's going to be as feasible. That doesn't mean 6 months, a year down the road, it doesn't turn around and become more feasible. So I think we just got to look and keep our eyes open and understand what's going on. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.